Am I hot here, everybody? Hopefully you can hear me. I'm going to stand up, and for those of you who are on the call virtual, on this meetup virtual, we're happy to have you. We're very excited to talk about some of the things that are going on here in Silicon Harlem and Harlem in general and the Harlems around the world. There's a lot of good people here in the office right now. We're going to have a conversation with everyone along the way so we can find out what's going on. But we also have a great opportunity to listen and learn about the metaverse that we've been hearing all around ourselves and what the heck is it and all that kind of stuff. So we've got one of the leading minds in this space to be here, and you'll be introduced to him in just a moment. In the meantime, I'm going to have Eric welcome everybody. And for those of you who are on virtual, we're putting up a poll right away. Some of you might have it on your devices, but we're going to put it on right away, a poll, which is essentially a question about the metaverse. Go ahead, Eric. I'll send that poll now.
Good evening, everyone. Glad that you could join us. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Eric Cunningham. I'm the Chief Financial Officer here at Silicon Harlem. I've been here for about 6 years in length at Silicon Harlem, but as a partner with Clayton, much longer. We won't get into the years. We wanted to welcome everyone here. We're so glad you could join us. 2021 has been an interesting and challenging year, but it has been a launch point year for Silicon Harlem, which you definitely will learn more about tonight. We are doing some really exciting things. We have some super opportunities going into 2022 that we're going to need your support. Understand that our ecosystem is one built around both community and technology, and we want you all to maintain yourselves as a part of that lexicon as we move forward and try to facilitate an environment where opportunity is flourishing and gaps are diminishing. So before we get started, I'm going to have our project manager, Claire Young, come up and introduce the person that started the conversation, Clayton, who many of you know, but she's going to give you some more background about some of the things we're doing here this year that's exciting with us. Claire?
Thank you, Eric. Well, thank you, everyone, for being here. You're a part of our Silicon Harlem family, and now it's my honor to introduce my mentor and the mentor of many people, the one and only Mr. Clayton Banks, the CEO of Silicon Harlem.
Thank you, Claire Young. We are, again, happy that everyone's coming out and that, given this era that we're living in through COVID and what's it called, Omicron or something like that, and Delta and everything else that's in our lives that we're all sick of and we're all tired of it. But I'm glad that we were able to get together today. We are really, I always say this is the time of our lives. For those of you who've known Silicon Harlem and myself for several years, it's all been about how do we make sure people are connected. Way before the pandemic, when we were talking about everyone needs a connection, is broadband everywhere? I was climbing on most of your backs about this, like, yo, when are we going to get this done? And it took a pandemic for people to start calling me. Clayton, what were you talking about again? What was that you were saying about broadband for everybody? Yeah. And I've lately been writing quite a bit. You might have saw one of the op-eds I put in Cranes, and I'm doing a few things. I'm running on the, I've been honored. I'm on the transition team for Mayor Adams, and I recently was asked to serve on a committee for the FCC. Sounds cool, could care less. But what I love about it is that the letter I received to get on the FCC committee for the commission was written from a woman, the first woman in the history of the United States to have a chair of the FCC. That, to me, of all the things that I may have been blessed with, I just thought it was just one of the greatest moments because she got sworn in by Biden on October 31st, with the only thing left was the Senate, but on October 31st, she essentially was the chair. On November 1st, she sent me that letter. I want you to be on this committee. And I, first time probably ever, I framed a letter. So I actually framed the letter inside this office right now. I'm saying all that to say is that in 2020, the word was COVID. COVID, COVID, COVID. And 21 has been what? Infrastructure. Infrastructure, infrastructure. You hear it all the time. Well, that means it's my time. My gig is infrastructure. So we are having some of the most biggest opportunities we've had as a company. It's one of those things like a few weeks ago where our congressman here in Harlem, Adriano Espiat, called me. I call him all the time. He called me this time when the infrastructure bill got put into law. And he says, listen, Clayton, one of the major voices that's going to distribute this money is the whip of the United States of America. That happens to be Clyburn. Clyburn is the whip. He says, you and I are going to go talk to Clyburn together. So this is what's happening now. This is the time. This thing only happens about every 100 years, when you can basically upgrade the entire world. In our business where we're actually out there deploying networks, we're finding everyone hears about supply chains. It's happening in the network business. How do you get an access point? How can you find more Cat6? It's everywhere happening now. It's just our time. So tonight I'll talk a little bit later on that after the conversation we'll have about the metaverse, but I think it's just important for us to share tonight. Not only those who are listening through the webinar, but for those who are here in our office today. Let's really go into it. I'm calling, one thing I want everybody to put in their calendar, everybody online, everyone in this room. This is going to be the easiest thing for you to remember. All right, you ready? On 2/22 of 22 at 2 p.m. on a TWO Tuesday. Hello, you come here, we're going to be ribbon cutting the very first gigabit center of New York City. It's a huge, huge thing. That's why you guys are trialing what is part of that, which is that when I talked about the Link NYC SSID here, we have pulled in fiber into this building. We've got the fastest speeds going on in Upper Manhattan, and it will be available to community of all of Manhattan, which would normally be in Midtown or downtown. Everybody's coming uptown. So I wanted to make sure, 2/22 at 2 on a Tuesday. So I'm so excited about that. So anyway, you want to be there. It'll be a ribbon cutting, and I'm trying to get the mayor to come. Certainly our assembly people will be here and a bunch of political people, but also just those who want to see this kind of thing happen. And I'm calling the month of February, and I love to put a theme around certain things, but the theme of February, perhaps it should be for the entire year, the theme for February. The word is reclamation. It's our time. It's our turn. It's time to reclaim our own destiny. It's our time to reclaim what really is coming, how we ultimately are not defined as a divide. It's a big pain in my neck when people talk about digital divide. I have no idea what they're saying. So this is a reclamation that you'll hear throughout this month, next month, and the next month, because I think it's a great opportunity. Like I said, every 100 years you might get this chance. So we are now the architects of bridges and tunnels and streets. We're also very much available in every single home, where we can literally make sure people are connected, are literally driving their own economy, and we make a world that's a little bit better. That's what we are able to do right now. With that being said, Silicon Harlem is also very deep into advanced technology. We're constantly trying to figure out what's next, what will happen next, all this kind of stuff. And what we have found already is that there's something that some people call the Internet 3. The third version of the Internet is coming out. And that has been sort of looked upon as a new way to not only have connectivity, but a new way of actually living. And for those of us who've been around a while, know some of these efforts in the past, and always failed, where we tried to do Second Life and all kind of stuff we were doing back in the day. But now, there's a whole ecosystem around this because it goes from sort of commerce to asset. What you find in the metaverse is everything's more asset-driven than commerce-driven, right? So the NFTs and the Bitcoin, all that kind of stuff is very, very a part of this Internet 3 or metaverse, however you want to define it. And we have one of the great minds who has been studying this for a long time and architecting quite a bit. And so we're going to bring Ben up here to the front as our guest speaker and an expert in this space. He's got his goggles. I mean, you know, that means it's real. Give him a hand. And we're very lucky that the moderator tonight is one of the great Silicon Harlemites, but also she's an attorney, a great businesswoman, worked at the United Nations, has traveled all over the world, and is just one of these people that you definitely want to meet and understand, because she has sort of a vision that I think is going to be very impactful for not only this community, but for communities around the world. I get a good opportunity to see how she works, because she works right here in Silicon Harlem, and just happy to have her here. Danielle Nicholson, come up here. And please, Ben Irwin, Danielle Nicholson, everybody.
Thank you.
I still have a mic. Can I have that? Thank you. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having
Good
me.
evening, everyone. Very excited to be here in person as well as online. Thank you, Clayton, for the introduction. I have the pleasure tonight of speaking with Ben Irwin, a member of our Silicon Harlem family. You never leave. Ben is the creator of the Polys, which is the WebXR Awards and WebXR Summit Series. He is a recognized expert in the XR industry, working on numerous initiatives, including XRcollaboration.com, Ready Player Golf, Metro Traversal, XR, and the XR Hall of Fame. In his impressive 36-year career in marketing and technology, Ben has worked on dozens of projects for name brands at major agencies, including the New York Times T Brand Studio, and served as a webmaster at the United Nations for 13 years. And Ben also was the executive director of our 2018 and 2019 Silicon Harlem Next Gen Summit. So, pleasure to be here with you, Ben.
Thank you so much, Diane. Danielle. Sorry.
And so,
Sitting here futzing, trying to get
Of course, thank you.
my screen sharing going well. But thank you for the kind introduction, and it's a pleasure to be here, and it's great to see you.
yes, pleasure to see you again. It's been a very long time.
It has.
And so
Since yesterday.
Since yesterday.
Since our prep call.
And so this conversation about the metaverse, you know, as Clayton mentioned, it's going to be the Internet 3. It's a name that's been thrown around a lot. Facebook has adopted that name as their brand name. But can you just start by telling us a little bit about what is the metaverse?
Well, as Clayton called it, the Internet 3, there's actually a lot of different words that go to describe it. Web 3 is actually something that is commonly referred to as the Ethereum ecosystem blockchain. Ethereum sort of came along and snapped up Web 3, and so there's actually sort of two different ideas of what's going on with the metaverse ecosystem, which is the sort of blockchain fintech ecosystem and the content ecosystem, which is the XR ecosystem. And ultimately there is one metaverse, and there are multiple technology stacks that bring it all together. So one of the things that I'm trying to do in my work is sort of harmonize what that lingo is so that it actually makes sense to people and becomes more accessible to folks.
So I know a lot of times when people think of the metaverse, they think of gaming, they think of entertainment. What else would people do inside the metaverse?
Well, first of all, social media as we know it is moving into a virtual space. So you can put on an avatar and go into a world that is either part of a social VR platform, and there are several, and I'll talk and show you in particular one of them. And you can build virtual worlds of your own. I'll talk a little bit about opportunities that are coming out of that. And big difference between the internet as we know it today, which is a 2D sort of infinite scrolling that goes on, and you post and people read it and like it, is that, I mean, just imagine that you and I are just avatars here, and we're sitting and we're creating a memory, and we have virtual presence, and that's what really makes the difference. And it doesn't matter that you look like a cartoon. What matters is that you're embodied, and that when you move, that there's 6 degrees of freedom around you, and so you can turn your head and you can look up and down and back forth and up and down, and that your mind handles that differently than it would when you're just traditionally scrolling. And so when you're in a social VR context, you're creating memories with other people.
And so we saw that you had the Oculus goggles on. Is that how you access the metaverse, or how does that work?
Well, it's one way. The word immersive actually has many different applications to it. I mean, you could call something like early as Second Life, which is I say that there's 2D and 2D, 3D and 2D, 2D and 3D, and 3D and 3D.
Okay, I think that went over my head, but
So,
continue.
Well,
That was a lot of D's.
like Second Life is 3D and 2D. And there are a lot of ways that you can get into the metaverse just through a desktop application. You can do it through a web browser, you can do it through an installed application, and that technically is immersive. You can play Fortnite on your phone. The Fortnite is considered the world of Fortnite, that universe, is considered part of the metaverse. So you can do it on mobile. But to have 6 degrees of freedom, there are sensors on headsets, and whether you're talking about a virtual reality headset like a Oculus Quest, which is what I have here, or a set of augmented reality glasses, and there really aren't many on the market, and it's years away before they really fulfill their potential. That's another type of immersive content. And so one of the things I'll talk about is sort of the difference between AR and VR, VR being fully immersive where you're inside of a world. And that's the metaverse that I'm here to talk about.
That's what the Oculus.
Yes.
Type.
And then there's the AR cloud, and Clayton's been talking for years about the phygital and the physical digital space. And so within a couple of years, I mean, you can already point your phone at things and see holograms and content that's there, but that's going to be ubiquitous in a couple of years, and you'll be able to visit historical markers and see animated holograms of George Washington or whatever. The ability for content to be placed in a certain location and a certain pose is what is referred to as the AR cloud, and that is another layer of the metaverse.
Got it. So I guess I'm just thinking, if you're inside the metaverse, what would people use it for? Like, would you see your doctor in the metaverse? Other than for entertainment or social purposes, what would people do inside the metaverse?
Well, the big, easy answer to that question is what people refer to as the future of work. There are a lot of collaborative platforms. And so one of the things that the pandemic accelerated was the need for people to telecommute in better, and so we've had video conferencing for years, but all of a sudden that became normal to do that. But at the same time, VR telecommuting, where you're actually in avatar sitting at a virtual conference room table with your virtual colleagues, having a virtual meeting in 3D, that is a practical use of the metaverse.
So that means we never have to go back inside the office.
Pretty much.
That sounds great. And also, a lot of what we've been hearing about is people buying real estate inside the metaverse, especially for very large sums of money. So why would someone want to buy real estate inside the metaverse?
Well, I was actually reading an article about that, and a famous metaverse guy named Lucas Risotto. He's a very talented developer. I actually met him a couple of weeks back when I was at the San Francisco Augmented World Expo, AWE. And he posted sort of a flaming article about that all this is going to be worthless. And so my reaction to that was to post the classic animated GIF of Michael Jackson eating popcorn from the Thriller video, because I was just expecting, and I was like, ooh, I'm just like, let me read the comments on this one. There's a lot of speculation going on around crypto in general, and NFTs and virtual real estate are at sort of a peak hype right now. And I honestly feel that that's headed for a reckoning. I think that the thing that the digital ecosystem has needed all along, which is attribution, that is the value that NFT brings. When you can sign a digital document and it has authenticity, and that authenticity has value that you can then trade, I think that is valuable. And certainly there's an art market, and whether or not $65 million worth of Ethereum is worth a Bored Ape GIF that they have, they have a whole series of things, and then there's spin-offs of that and so forth. So there's a whole sort of hype cycle going on around that. And literally if anybody knows the Gartner hype cycle, there's the slope of innovation, and then there's the peak of inflated expectations. And so NFTs are right there at the top right now. But there's also a huge amount of investment that's going into that ecosystem right now. And when that pays off, and the hype passes, then what we're going to be left with is a lot of sort of legitimate trading of assets. So there's a practical use to it, and then there's a gold rush. And we've seen gold rushes come and go before, and we're going to see this sort of pan out. But the technology that, the underlying technology for NFT, that's here to stay.
So how long do you think it'll take for the metaverse to be something that most people are using on a daily basis?
Well, on a daily basis, I think it's going to be a transition. Apple's trying to position the smart glass that's coming out as not just a supplement to the smartphone, but an actual replacement of the smartphone. And I think that that's going to take a while. They're promising a lot of processing. So there's a lot of physics, there's a lot of science that needs to win out. And I would imagine that there's a lot of really cool stuff going on in Apple's labs right now that we're not privy to, and they're being hyper secret. I'll talk about that. I have a bit of a deck to share with you here. But the transition into this is going to be slow. And the opportunity here, which is what my deck is about, is the opportunities in the metaverse, is that when this hardware arrives, there needs to be content for it. And so the same way that everybody needed a website, and everybody needed a mobile app, and everybody needed to do video and so forth, and all the opportunities that the first two major iterations of the web created, this is going to be even bigger.
And so how long do you think the learning curve would be? Because it did take some people a while to adopt smartphones. Everything takes an adoption rate. Do you think it'll take people a long time to kind of get used to the metaverse?
Well, as Clayton said many times, the best type of technology is when it becomes transparent to the end user. And so it's going to take a little bit of a while to get there, but I think that there are a lot of smart people working on the user interfaces and the content, and things that we take for granted and use, like calendaring and wayfinding and stuff like that. These are all sort of going to be baked into early iterations of that, and then there'll be sort of things that we have personal uses for, and where finding my keys and stuff like that. These are all potential ideas that people can have additional utility that make use of a device that detects the space around you, and with that also comes privacy implications and stuff. So people are working on a lot of really complex problems to solve that. So the whole adoption curve is going to take a number of years, but the content is going to become easier as that adoption curve happens.
Do you want to run through a few slides? Or?
Yeah, I was going to ask if you could share with us a little bit about your deck.
Could I, okay, I have the share screen button now. And so the first thing, where's my desktop here? Give me a moment. See, my deck is called "You Cannot Be Told What the Matrix Is," so I thought I'd make this a little bit of a show and tell here, and actually
You have to be in it.
a little bit about this. So let me make sure that this thing is up and running here. It's on. And
Show and tell.
here we go. So
You're not sharing the
yeah, I'm about to start here. I just wanted to make sure that I'm.
And is that the Oculus, the Facebook Oculus?
This is the Oculus Quest. Yes.
Oculus Quest.
Can I just share very quickly that we did a poll during the conversation? We see the share time, but what we asked was, will the metaverse create another opportunity gap? 100% of people said yes.
Well, if you need that costs around
Tonight.
$300 to $400. So if that's gap number one. That's gap number one.
Oh my God. Thanks for that.
Well, I have that on the slide too. So I'm trying to get this casting working. I tested it right before we started here. Let's see.
Speak into the
Here we
mic.
go. All right.
Speak into the mic.
Uh-oh, he's literally in his
All right.
world.
So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to spawn a flight tool. Now, does everybody see this? So I've got this. So this is a world that was created for the award show that I created called the Poly's WebXR Awards, and the next one is on February 12th. And so this flight tool here is an amazing thing. You see this wand? So there's a little ball in front of the wand, and you see as I'm moving in the direction of the wand that the direction that I move from the little ball is the direction I'm moving. And if I hold my arm back, and the distance from that is acceleration, and I can just all of a sudden fly up here, and here I am. I can go and stand right inside the letters. And let me see, let me take a selfie.
Let me tell you, man, I've been up in here. That's some crazy stuff. Where's what we eat?
So here's my
Fall
selfie.
off the chair.
So on Thursday night, we had a party in here and talked about what our program is going to be. We live streamed to this video screen, and we had about 50 people, XR industry friends and colleagues, and we announced that we are doing 3 new WebXR summits next year: the WebXR Education Summit, the WebXR Brand Summit, and the WebXR Production Summit. And so I can just keep flying over here, and I have, this is a giant Poly Award, and there's sort of a little cauldron of hologram logos coming out of it here. I should throw a Silicon Harlem logo in here. There's the Future Way, the sponsor of this, Cause and Christie are the world builders, and the WebXR Awards logo. And over here is an actual monument to the WebXR Summit Series. And if I fly down over here, oh look,
Closer, please.
it's,
Closer, please.
there we
Yeah!
go. So here's,
All right? Yeah, I participated in the fall.
So-
Excellent.
so we had the WebXR Developer Summit, the WebXR Business Summit, and the WebXR Design Summit. So this is a 3D world that's made in Blender and Unity. And the artist who built this actually made, if anybody saw the movie The Dark Crystal, this thing that I'm looking at here is a sort of tribute to the conjunction machine, and the speed that these sort of planets are moving around is actually mathematically correct. You can see we have a really slow moving Neptune over here. So this is just a little bit of a taste of what 6 Degrees of Freedom in the Metaverse is all about. So I just thought I'd start with that, because that sort of gives you a sense of that there's virtual spaces that you can move around in, and I'll talk a little bit more as we go about the opportunities that are being created for that. So I'm going to close off this, and I'm going to go to my deck. So I think I have to share a different, yeah.
The audience here and online, if you can hear me. For those who are online, please put questions in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. Does anyone have a question right off the bat? Robert Taylor?
So this is all virtually new for me.
You should be using the mic to ask your
I had a
question.
chance to experience this personally. And I'm wondering, like, as
Yeah,
someone,
Danielle, you can go
so I'm wondering, like, based on sort of your immersion into this, does it ever become fatiguing? And, you know, you sort of get overly saturated being inside that environment that you need to just kind of pop back out into real life?
Yeah, I think that there's thresholds for that. A lot of people get motion sick in VR really easily, and that's not, my wife is one of them. She loves the idea of VR, she totally gets it, but it takes literally seconds for her to get queasy from being inside. And so different people have different inner ear stability. I've been flipped upside down and spun around on a virtual skateboard and not gotten sick, and I was like, if I could do that, then I don't have that particular problem. But this battery that I have here gives the Quest lasts an hour or more, a little bit, and this battery makes it last even longer. The stamina that you have, I guess, is really how interesting what you're doing is. It depends on the person and what you're doing in the virtual space. Thanks, Robert.
I've been on these hours for a long time, at a time, and fatigue is crazy. You're like,
When you're just that great, you should use the mic to second the floor.
oh, anyway, what? I don't have a mic.
We have one more question.
All right, continue.
Hi, you kept referring to 6 degrees.
Yes.
What did you mean by 6 degrees?
Okay, that is an excellent question. So 6 degrees of freedom, which is often referred to as 6DOF, is up, down, left, right, backward, forth. So that's actually 3. And then there's pitch, yaw, and roll. So you turn your head, it's pitch, yaw, and roll. And that allows you to move through space just like you would in real life. And sensors pick up your proximity to whatever objects are in the room, and that's what moves you forward in the space. But for example, as I was just using a wand to move through, or you can use your thumb controllers, or you can push a button and teleport. These are all different ways that you can have locomotion in the metaverse.
With any other questions?
We're gonna see a little, go ahead, Bruce, get it ready to go.
Okay. I probably will never understand the why of all of this. This, as someone who never had a Facebook account, I'm still curious as to what big industry sees as a way to monetize this. I saw an article today that Nike had purchased some virtual shoe company in order to, I guess, gain a foothold on people that buy items for their avatars. And I'm kind of just trying to understand where all this might be going.
Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a slide that I have called the creator economy. And there is a lot of, some of it's hype, some of it's for real, but there's a paradigm shift going on with the economics of digital content. And the metaverse is part of it. NFTs are part of it. Like the ecosystem has evolved quite a bit, and that the idea of having digital goods is now part of that new economy. So like a lot of this is yet to sort of evolve and be revealed, but Nike is a vanguard company who really sort of sees it coming, and that's why they're getting out in front, and they're leading a lot of other companies to do the same.
We want you to get on your slides, but can I ask I want to answer part of your question, or at least build on your question. I love the fact when somebody says, why? Right? So here's what I've concluded so far after seeing so many different types of technologies deployed. It right now looks like a money grab. There's not like, here's how we're going to help people, here's how we're going to do this. This is like a perfect example of why people try to go after money. Even Ben mentioned there's these, things, some of these things are going to go to bust, but what we can do is start to get involved to see if we can make a why out of it, because if we don't, there becomes the next divide, and we're all suddenly going, why didn't we get involved, and all this other stuff. So I 100% agree with you that there's no articulation of the why. It just sounds interesting. It sounds very techy. I've been all up in it, and this is clearly a money grab right now. So the earlier you're in, the more likelihood you can take advantage. And so as much as I'm a nerd, I look at these things and I go, how are they going to really move, for myself, not for everybody, but for me, it's like, how does this really move humanity? That's what I'm curious about, because this is a big thing. These are like the biggest companies. You just mentioned like a Nike and Facebook. This is a big deal. So if it's going to be a game changer, the question becomes, is it a game changer for everyone?
So I'm going to begin my presentation, which is called "You Cannot Be Told What the Metaverse Is," by showing something that just came up on my radar today. I love finding bleeding edge stuff the day of. So we've got, after almost 20 years, a new Matrix coming out, and the tech that has been built in the meantime that is now built to do the Matrix. And if anybody here is like a Mandalorian fan from Star Wars, one of the innovations that they have is they use a gaming engine called Unreal Engine to power giant LED screens that they actually film the show in front of. And what the game engine does is it tracks the camera relative to the wall and actually changes the perspective, so actors can actually see the environment that they're in space, and are acting instead of just being in front of a green screen. So this is the bleeding edge innovation of, are you ready, Clayton? I'm gonna.
Yep, go ahead.
So here goes. I made a little edit. This was an 11-minute video here, but do we have an audio send, Jolie?
You should be sharing sound.
Did I need to click something to do it?
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I also have my volume turned down.
You have to share sound when you share screen.
Did I not do that? You can hear it?
There's not a lot of audio on it. You're not
When
sharing.
a world we can build feels as real as ours.
That just gives an echo. Yeah, you're just not sharing a lot of echo. I mean, a lot of audio.
Now watch this part. That was a demonstration of what can be done with this, but this gets into some of the little effects that are possible. So this city is fake. This is available on PlayStation and Xbox. It's The Matrix Awakens. So apparently in this video game, there's 16 square kilometers that you can drive around with this level of photorealism. And that there are millions of people and cars that you can just pick up and drive. And the screen share quality over Zoom doesn't really do it justice. It's pretty beautiful over here. But so I'm going to so a little bit of what I've done, including work with Clayton back at Ember Media back in the day. And so I've already been introduced. These are the projects that I'm working on. But I'm here to talk about the opportunities in the metaverse, because that's really what Silicon Harlem is all about. And is this? Check, check. Did I turn it off over here? Hello. All right. So we already talked that it's the. We already talked about that it's the next evolution of the internet, but there are various figures. They have a compound annual growth rate, CAGR. There's all sorts of different studies that are done about how many billions of dollars it's going to be worth. I'm not going to try to put a number on it, but if we use history as our guide and look back 20 years and see, you know, what was the internet worth? What was the Web 2.0, which was social media, video, and embedded user-generated content? What was that worth? You know, fun fact, Apple was worth less than $8 billion in 2001. It's worth $3 trillion now. So these things have a way of compounding over time. And so Apple isn't even in the game yet, and I'll talk to that. But there are massive investments being made. Brands are changing. We talked about Nike, and we also talked about how it's changing the way that we work, is in addition to the way we play and live. So for those of you that don't know the origin of it, reading any article about the metaverse, they will reference Snow Crash, which was the dystopian novel about elitists on a train that Chris Evans was on a couple of years back. They made a movie of it. but there are 3D spaces that you can enter virtually. And for anybody wanting to read a really interesting article about this, I even made a bit.ly for it, the bit.ly 7 Metaverse Rules. Tony Parisi, who I know from the XR industry, really smart guy. He actually was an early developer of this back in the 90s. And he also is one of the people that created the GLTF format, which is the sort of the principal 3D model format. And he wrote this treatise on the metaverse that I consider is a must read. And so I'm not going to sort of dive into his rules, but I highly recommend that for anybody that's really interested in the subject, it's a great place to start, and I think it might inspire some of it. So recently, Facebook talked about the fact that it's going to take a $10 billion loss, and this was right as they renamed themselves Meta, to do this. And they're going to put hundreds of millions of dollars into education. And think what you want about Facebook. They have hired great people. They've shown real leadership in this space. I have questions about the business model and the subsidy of why an Oculus Quest costs $300. The cost is your privacy, and if you're willing to make peace with that, then cool, and if not, that's cool too. But nonetheless, it's not easy to do the R&D to make a VR headset and to sell 10 million of them, and that's what they've done. When Apple, yeah.
Boycotted Facebook. He was so pissed off for like a year.
Yeah, well, that's another story. That was because they started accepting money for lies and political advertising for while censoring the rest of us. But nonetheless, just like our own government, it's really complicated. We don't necessarily agree with all the decisions that are made at the top, but at the end of the day, the people in the country are good. And that's kind of the way that I feel about Facebook, to sort of sum that up. We also talked about glasses supplanting phones within 10 years. And one thing that's really important is that the amount of power that it takes to render 3D graphics is massive. And one of the things I wasn't thinking about with the slide, but since we were talking about crypto and NFTs and so forth, is that crypto is created by graphical processing units, GPUs, and the whole crypto phenomenon, in order to find the next block in the blockchain, requires graphics cards, and that is what has artificially driven up the demand of graphics cards, and why a $600 card costs you $1,800 now if you can find them. And that's just the beginning of the processing problem. Apple said that it's going to have an M1 chip in its headsets, and people are like, well, how is the physics going to work in that? The M1 chip and the heat and everything, like, how is that going to not melt your face when you have it on a pair of glasses? We're going to have to wait and see, won't we? But nonetheless, the amount of storage, the amount of memory, the amount of processing, the amount of cloud computing that it takes to be able to run this. One of the things that they're doing with VR is called pixel streaming. And so when people don't have headsets that can actually process the graphics, they do it in the cloud and they basically stream it down to your device. And that's another angle to this whole new economy. So the creator economy, this is at the heart of what I'm here talking about with opportunities, is that the time to start upskilling is yesterday. Not now. You should already be in motion doing it, but you definitely don't want to wait another day. And the thing to ask about, okay, well, how does the metaverse affect me, is what do you do already? What do you love to do, want to do? And you could be one of several different profiles. You could be somebody who is been there, done that, tired of their career, looking for something new and wanting to do something exciting and fulfilling, and maybe want want to do something creative or whatever the metaverse has to offer. You may be somebody who absolutely loves their job and says, okay, how is this going to change the way that I work? How is it going to change the way that I interact with my colleagues? And how is it going to change the product that my company makes? And all of these things are for you to answer. But the fact is that this is going to be a big disruptor the way that the internet was a big disruptor. And the changes that come with that include learning the new language behind it. And this isn't something that you can really fake your way through or just read an article and think that you understand. You have to spend time and apply yourself and talk to other people and really sort of get a handle on this. And it's also something that I came to a point a couple of years ago where I was big on this topic, and I thought, I need to buy my own gear because there are a lot of, digital transformation charlatans out there who are just trying to sell you snake oil, but they actually don't know what they're talking about. But the people who are getting ahead in this space are people who are making things and the people who really understand it well. So
Ben, I actually had a question about
Yeah.
that because we see from the question earlier posed to the chat that everyone acknowledges that this will be an opportunity gap. But when you talk about skills, and I think we can wrap this up here on a happy note, what are the skills specifically that people can obtain right now, especially young people who are still in school? What are the kind of classes, what are the jobs that you think will be ready for the metaverse?
Well, as I put here, 3D skills are really essential. And I think that, for a lot of parents have kids who want to get an expensive computer so that they can play Fortnite on it, and other video games and so forth. And I made a post recently saying that get them the expensive computer, but also have them install Blender and Unity and Unreal Engine and learn the 3D skills and tools that it makes to be able to do that.
And open up a hat shop, apparently, to compete with the Nike shoe shop. I could have my own hat shop.
Yes, you can. And that's the type of thinking that I'm talking about, is something that you like, something that you want to do. How can you apply this new paradigm and this new technology to make a place for yourself? Because the opportunity to get into it is right now. This next 4 or 5 years is like the late 90s for the early web. It's like the sort of 2008 to 2012 era for the mobile web. And so I'm getting to the end of my slides here, which I'm glad that this has come up a couple of times here, is I chose the word mitigating a new digital divide because I've been working with Clayton a long time, and the work that Silicon Harlem is doing is dealing with a problem that is still not solved, is that people are not connected yet. So starting with that digital divide has not been solved yet. And people like Clayton out there in the world who are trying to deliver broadband to homes so that kids can connect to the internet, like this is a basic right. And these are things that you need to have in place before you think about having a heavy-duty computer and know how to do 3D and stuff like that, or being able to afford an expensive device, whether it's a subsidized $300 Oculus Quest or a $6,000 Vario headset, which is, if you look up varjo.com, their product is an extremely high-end thing. So this isn't something that normal folks can afford. This is something that the military buys. But the tech is extremely advanced, but bringing this down to a human level, to a consumer level, and making it affordable for people to take care of the opportunities. The opportunities are in being able to download a program like Blender, which is a full-featured 3D modeling software that is 100% free and open source. So that's a great place to start, is download Blender. There's a billion tutorials on YouTube on how to use it, and make stuff. Make things that you like. There's a whole economy around 3D models. There's several sites called Sketchfab and Turbo Squid and free3d.com. You can make models if you want. You can build worlds, and then you can import them into Unity, and then you can take the Unity project and you can bring it into a social VR platform. These are all opportunities where not a lot of people are doing it yet. The skills to do this are in extreme demand. So, you know, as a web developer coming out of the 90s, my heyday as a web developer sort of peaked around 2015, 2016, when it got commoditized by the Wix and the Squarespace, and they finally made an easy to use CMS. We're probably another 15 or 20 years out before that happens here. So this is an opportunity for people who want to be able to make things. And that's my last bullet, is the makers will win. This is a maker economy, and the people who have ingenuity and want to make things that they can sell, make things that other people can use, and you know, NFT is one of many avenues that they refer to the creator economy based on NFTs, that a creator can then not only sell a work, but that the subsequent sells of something. So if a resell of something, that people can sort of track the ownership of that and have a commission. That's a new way of thinking about the economics of creativity. And so this is the opportunity of a generation. So I would highly suggest that you buy a device. The Oculus Quest 2 is a great device, and it's really affordable. And as long as you're good with the, you know, the fact that Facebook is mining your data out of it, just like they do when you're on Facebook, then, you know, just be at peace with that and move on. I've had to, but I also appreciate what they have accomplished. And I actually spoke to two of the guys who make the Oculus browser last week, and these are great folks, genius engineers, super cool people who are making a great product. And my whole focus in the metaverse is WebXR, which is the delivery of content over the open web, and whether the destination is a desktop browser, a mobile device, or a headset, that the ability to go into the metaverse over the web, I think, is a really important thing. So the browser, the Oculus browser, is really the only ones that are doing that. So the last 2 points that I would make is something that I just say a lot, and doesn't necessarily have to do with the metaverse, but just in general, is that build up your social media presence and use social media as a tool to have information come to you. And whether or not you're interested in the metaverse or 3D or anything that has to do with this, you're into something. You care about something. You have a professional inclination, you have personal inclinations, and network with people that care about that. Join Facebook groups, connect with everybody on LinkedIn, like, period. Like, lose your inhibition about needing to know somebody. Build up your LinkedIn information, and the value of that is that this information's constantly coming to you. The video that I showed came up as a result of, I don't even know who posted it, but nonetheless, I'm getting this fresh information every day. And think of things that you want to exist and learn how to make them. And by the time you figure that out, then you will have a skill you didn't have before. And with that, I'm open for questions.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ben. I'm going to go home right now and try to make some hats to sell to Nike.
Go for it.
So I wanted to open it up for maybe 1 or 2 more questions, and we'll take anything on the chat as well, and then we're going to move on.
I have a question or a comment.
There.
So as you know, as you may or may not know, I work with the Internet Society, and we work on that digital divide, and we're not the only organization. There's the Alliance for Affordable Internet and the Association for Progressive Communications. And A4AI has this thing they've been working on for the last year, which is meaningful connectivity. And I'd like to put this phrase into your lexicon, Clayton, meaningful connectivity. And this is the kind of thing that once people have meaningful connectivity that they can do, to have, so there's, it's not just having a connection, it's having a connection that you can do something with.
Indeed.
That's point one. The other one is that, I do the streaming. And one of the things I stream is the Accessibility VR Meetup. And there's 20 videos on their YouTube page about every aspect. And if you think about it, the people who can't move, are totally disabled, blind, deaf, whatever, within this kind of environment, they can have real interactions with each other and things. And people are making great tools. Microsoft's made a virtual white cane so that blind people can walk around. There's a thing called walk-through, where people who are physically disabled can walk around. So it's A11Y VR. I recommend checking that out on YouTube.
Well, thank you, and I'm glad you brought that up. And you said an extremely important word, which is accessibility. And there's two meanings to accessibility. There is how easily you can access something, and there is having function that disabled people can use. So when it comes to, if you are sight impaired, that you have audio tracks and so forth. So WebXR as a virtual reality platform is really good for both. It's easy to access the metaverse through it, and it is also very well built to be able to function for people who have various limitations, whether it's physical mobility, sensory impairment, that it can augment them in ways. And when it comes to people that are sick or elderly or who don't have mobility, they can be transported to places and have experiences that they wouldn't otherwise have. And that is a huge quality of life boost. Like, take somebody who's in hospice care or in an elderly facility and they can't move and they can't do anything. And you can, I call it the XR smile, like when you put a virtual reality headset on somebody for the first time and you see under the mask and they've got this huge grin on their face because they've never been to such a place or they've never had that experience before. It's very, very powerful from a human standpoint. And this, Clayton, is the human aspect of it that we want to deliver the metaverse for.
It's a good point. And Jolie, I just wanted to comment on your meaningful connectivity. The way we've been defining it lately, and this has nothing to do with the metaverse, but what we've been defining it lately has been, if you have everyone has a certain speed. But one thing, regardless of speed, if you're downloading, you're a consumer. If you're uploading, you're a maker. So when people say, well, they got connectivity, and they got 50 megabytes, they're not putting nothing up. So I'm going to go to the chat, and then I'm going to come to Ken Granderson. But we have a couple of questions. Ben, try to be very quick on these. We've got to move.
Got it.
So one of them comes from Donnell. Where and how does the first iteration of training and education begin for adults?
For the metaverse. Okay, Donnell. Well, I'll take a stab at that. First of all, the education is regarded as the key use case of this. I haven't seen as many examples as I would like of it being put into action yet, but there are a lot of people doing really good work. So my first recommendation is that, and this is something that you can do through your web browser, there is a platform called framevr.io, And framevr.io is actually built for education, and you can go in and you can create your own, well, you can choose from different templates that already have virtual worlds. You can do this on your desktop. You don't need a headset, but you can go into VR, but you can bring in content. You can have meetings in there with webcams, and you can do presentations, and you can have photospheres and have all sorts of different content in Frame. And so that's one of many platforms. The only reason I'm highlighting Frame is that it's very accessible. It's multi-platform. There are many, many great platforms out there. I worked on a publication called xrcollaboration.com that actually has a long list of XR platforms. There are social VR platforms, there are work platforms, there are all sorts of things. But the best way, Donnell, to get started is to jump in and get a sense of it yourself and learn the tools. So download Blender and take some tutorials on that. Go into Frame and play around with that. Explore, be curious. That's the best advice I can give. There is no one-stop shop for learning about this.
Okay, hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me okay?
Sure.
Okay, great.
Hi there.
Hi, my name is Ken Granderson, and I would like to share an idea of a way we might be able to use the metaverse to make the real world better. I create Black history, Black news, and Black videos, and with my company blackfacts.com, we're the largest source of that kind of content online. We're making NFTs from our 700 Black history videos, including every day of the year. We're going to be working with my friend Hassan's company, PayBaby NFT, where he's creating and selling NFTs for celebrities and stuff. And we're going to be building into the NFTs. You didn't mention the smart contract, but you know, you alluded to it with the whole idea of like get royalties and then you sell it for more, you get more royalties. You know, you can bake a program into these elements. Mm-hmm. So we're going to be building culturally oriented content that can exist in various metaverses. But the real rub, or the real upside that I want to share with folks is, imagine if you've played games like Civilization. You ever play Civilization? If you play Civilization, you learn things about how to run a city. And we can do that in the metaverse. We're going to be looking at building, well, in Web 2 you would call it an API for the metaverse, but smart contracts where, whether it's financial literacy, how to buy a home, civic engagement, where by using gamification, where you pull folks in to the metaverse, but by playing the game, despite yourself, you will learn things that can make you a better citizen in the real world. So I just wanted to share that idea. That's what we're working on with Black Facts, and we're also integrating the crypto stuff into his digital bank and all this stuff. So we need help.
Yeah, and we need more of that. So good on you.
So we have one more question that was in the chat.
Here's the Q&A. Do you want to do Ted?
Yes, so the last question from Ted is, what potential impact for enhancing local economies? How will robotics and 3D printing play a role in the metaverse?
Well, that is a physical aspect of the metaverse. The metaverse is somewhat of a digital ecosystem, but if you think about, so first of all, you were talking about cities. Digital twinning is a big thing these days. So, I mean, obviously you're not going to go, why would you want to print a city? But, you know, in 2019, when we had the conference where we talked about the fourth industrial revolution and AI and blockchain and 5G connectivity, IoT, you know, robotics, I suppose I would put under IoT, you know, that's a hardware component of it. this is all one ecosystem. So as I said at the beginning, that the Web3 paradigm, which is more of a blockchain-oriented thing than an XR-focused thing, these are all sort of going to merge, and the lines are already blurred. The problem is that people don't get the semantics of it. It's like, oh, I thought this meant that, and the other thing, and that makes people less curious in a way because it isn't apparent. But to the curious, when you dig deeper and you start to wrap your head around all of this, you realize that the totality of this whole technological shift, and for folks like us that have been around a while and have seen a little bit of history and seen the dramatic last 25 years of technology, just roll that over the next 25 years and think about 2046 is going to be like with all of this, which is going to be a done deal, and we will know who all the players that won the game in the metaverse are. We have that type of opportunity in front of us. Like, who knew Google? Who knew Amazon? Like, Amazon and Google are going to be around, make no mistake, but there will be other players who are may not be bought by Amazon, Google, Facebook, Apple, all of the big companies. And that's where the opportunity is.
We're going to do one last question.
One last question.
Got to bring in the mic, and then we're gonna turn it over to everybody else.
Hassan, I'm the founder of a black-owned digital bank, but we're also the first NFT payment portal. We have people like Russell Simmons and the original masterminds of hip-hop, Allen Iverson, one of the superstars. And so now we're working with some of the metaverses where they're creating these alternative metaverses and putting all these digital work, so you can go and, you have a stadium, there's the Iverson Stadium, and you have that type of thing. But getting to the digital twinning part, where you talk about opportunity with local companies, is a big trend, and we work a lot with companies even outside the U.S., is social e-commerce, and that's creating something entirely different. But I would say the big challenge, particularly for those in our community, us BIPOC, black community, is how do, when we talk about there's going to be a Facebook and Google, I just shudder, because that's a winner-take-all predatory way of capitalism. And what we need to do is we need to figure out ways in which we can all participate, and people who create value can continue to grow, and that the benefits of capitalism extend to everybody. And that has not been happening. So that's sort of a comment and a question. And Facebook, I don't know if you know Facebook, Facebook's losing market share. It's considered an old people's platform. So one reason they're going to Meta is because if you go to anyone under 15, they go to Discord and TikTok. And if you go to 10 and under, they're all in the metaverse. It's called Roblox. And they spend money like crazy. If you have any little kids, right? and that's a metaverse, right? So the whole idea of this thing is moving fast, but and they're not on Facebook. So while there's this talk of these guys, they're trying to move this whole ecosystem. The ecosystem's growing fast. What we need to do is we're the most creative people on the planet. You can't find a major commercial that doesn't have hip hop and our music and our culture, but we're the employees. We get a little fee. What we need to think about is how do we become owners and how do we manage this economy for ourselves. That's what we need to be about.
That's very well said, Hassan. I'm going to have you guys, why don't you guys wrap up, and we're going to open. I want to hear from everybody before we get out of here. I really do want to hear more from everyone that's here, and anyone also virtually that you want to share. We're going to give you that opportunity.
So I just want to thank Ben again for coming here and sharing with us.
Thank you for having me.
Ben, do you have any last takeaway for us for the metaverse?
Well, the last couple of comments that I came in are first of all, amen to what you guys are saying there. And I think that in terms of the work that Silicon Harlem is doing, which I've been very close to Clayton for a long time, so and I've worked in and with Silicon Harlem for a long time, so I really understand what this operation is about. And it is critical. This is a really critical time to seize this opportunity because, you know, there's a lot of desire for diversity and inclusion out there in the industry. Some of it is lip service, but the people who are promoting it are very sincere about it. But it is not necessarily as easy as just saying, oh, well, we need to have more black people and women in tech. Black people and women in tech need to support each other and help each other be part of that community, because the opportunities are spread around when your peers are in on it. And this is so important and such an amazing opportunity on a scale that none of us really understand. I will say to you that I cannot wrap my head around how big this opportunity is. You know, because could we have seen where we're at right now? Like when we were kids and we thought, oh, we're gonna have flying cars someday. Well, we didn't get the flying cars, but no one thought we would get the smartphone. And the smartphone changed the world. But now we have an internet that we can go inside of and we can be together no matter where we are. How powerful is that? Not just chatting with each other and not just sending messages or posting selfies to a friend in Australia. We can actually be embodied as digital characters, and as that becomes more and more real. So if you just kind of think about the wow factor of that, and you have your kids sitting over there and
they play Roblox, I know.
And they play Roblox. Roblox, not Roadblocks, or Minecraft, or any of the other things. This is all part of the metaverse. So getting acquainted with this tech and sharing it and being open about it, like the best advice I could say is the more open you are, the more you give away, the more you're going to get out of this. And the best year of my life and my career has been the last year. And I'll tell you the secret of it is that I have gotten a tremendous amount of joy out of shining a light on other people's works. I created an award show and I brought experts in to talk about the things that they love and gave them an opportunity to showcase what they love. And so if you can find a way to find that level of joy in your work, then you will succeed in the metaverse.
Thank you so much.
Hold on, everybody, virtual. We're not finished. We got a few more things. You want to hear some of the voices that are here in the room. So let's start with who? Who wants to say something? Right over there. Danielle, can you help with that? He has to speak through everyone has to speak through the mic.
Sure. I mean, a lot of people today have been asking about, how is this actually practical? And I've kind of struggled with that question in terms of NFTs and do they have any actual value if they're not related to anything I can touch in the real world. But, I mean, as I'm sitting here, something kind of comes to mind. And that's an example that might answer your question and might answer your question about the hats. And that's that, imagine if you had a kind of a virtual space where you could go and you could have a high school reunion or a college reunion, right? And you could see all these people that you used to know. But you want to look good. So you have to buy clothes for this high school reunion, right? Or, and maybe you want to buy a hat. So somebody who creates that fashion can sell it in the virtual world. And you get to wear that on your virtual character. Mm-hmm. And now, that's a practical application. You're meeting with people and, and you're making money. And you're making money. So I mean, does that kind of seem like a practical?
It is, but I've been sitting here thinking, how can we be more altruistic with this? I mean, there are so many children that I see that struggle with education and say, I can't learn online, I can't do this. Can we put them in the metaverse in a classroom? Has there been any studies done on that to see what the effects are, or if it creates that same experience?
Well, there's layers to that in terms of first of all, it comes down to the content. So I've personally put VR headsets on several of my nephew's kids at the same time and taken them in. Like all four of us were in VR together. And it has to do with the VR, and it was very interesting. One of the things that was a flag for me was a game called Echo VR, which is pretty intense, and you have to sort of solve a problem to get through a thing. And the oldest girl had sort of a reaction to it where she was frustrated because she couldn't get past that. And I would, just be cautious about the content, but if you, like anything else, like if you put, bad cartoons in front of kids and they imitate bad behavior, if you put wholesome content in front of them, and they have a good experience, then they can learn something. They call VR, some people, whether it's true or not, call it an empathy machine. So you can empathize with people. You can share things. There is an amazing experience called, I should almost like fire it up and put it on the screen here. It's called, just
Well, I've got one that there's a couple of programs in England where they're using it on autistic kids and people people who are afraid to go outside, agoraphobia, and they take them through this thing where they do the things that they're afraid of in the virtual reality, and it's being used. There's a program at the Royal College of Art, and again, I'll plug the Accessibility VR YouTube channel where you'll find all this stuff.
Yeah. I actually know some of the people who are working on autism in VR in England, and it's one of many great applications for how you can help people by taking them somewhere and giving them an experience that they wouldn't have been able to have. So it's all about how good the content is. I personally don't think first-person shooter games are a very sort of healthy thing, and they're really popular. They're actually driving the economy. Like Fortnite blew up Epic Games, and Epic Games has blown up the metaverse in terms of they've reinvested big time. So I'm not finding fault with Epic for that, but nonetheless, I think that we have a responsibility to create quality content that creates a humanity that we aspire to be.
Yeah, I think my only reaction to that, to me, it's like another Frankenstein, right? Where we have the capacity to build great technology and to deploy it into the real world, but I worry about the moral capacity to actually manage it. I mean, I think as much as you can monetize this, possibility, there could be a social good for every, capitalistic or whatever venture that you might come up with. You could also probably come up with something that's, world serving. At the same time, and I think about a company like Meta, which was Facebook, and how they skillfully employ algorithms to, get people sort of to kind of act according to a script and, and I could see this being highly exploitive. And how do we sort of think about the counter programming before it becomes, so embedded in people, I guess.
Well, life in general is complicated on that level, and like you brought up Meta previously, and I talked about it being very, like the country that they make bad decisions at the top, but there's a difference between capitalism and surveillance capitalism. And the world has a lot of broken business models. One of them is surveillance capitalism. The petroleum economy is another one. Like we could go on, but humanity is constantly adjusting. Corruption adjusts to the game, but we're still here. We keep prevailing over these. So the beauty of the internet is that we're sharing information and we have a mindfulness that we weren't capable of before, and hopefully we can help fix and right the ship of some of the broken business models that have gotten us here and gotten us Cambridge Analyticas and moments like that we cannot afford a Cambridge Analytica of the metaverse. I've said that many times. We have mistakes that we need to learn from. We need to get our standards right early so that we get the economy built out. in an accelerated but safe manner, and we can't afford to sacrifice our humanity and our privacy and all of the cataclysmic effects like Trump that came out of Cambridge Analytica. I mean, like, we can say that that was a cause and effect right there.
And let me just, a couple of things that maybe people have read about, right? So beyond what we're talking about, the metaverse from sort of the cartoony part of it, cities and countries are moving their civics into the metaverse. So South Korea, we just heard in the United States, Santa Monica, all are starting to look at that platform as a way to deliver civics. So just like the internet, where people started to push everything digital, and all of a sudden now you have to access your civics through the internet, it's moving into the metaverse.
What does that mean?
That means you have to go into the metaverse to talk to your doctor. That means you have to go into metaverse to get your subsidies. Any type of RFP, all of that becomes in the metaverse. This is government in virtual reality. Look it up. Your turn.
I mean, I wanted to quickly go back to the idea why, and just remember the fact that in 1990, people were like, why would anybody ever need the internet? And we know what that has, now become. We live in the best of times and the worst of times, and that's just going to continue to happen. The bad things are going to get worse, and the good things are going to get better. So I focus in. Me and my daughter have a company called Black on Black Education, and we focus in on what are we going to do to transform education in our communities. And this is definitely one of the ways. I've interacted with a bunch of people who have shown me things where I'm like, yes, it adds an intensity to things that actually land with young people. Where if they just sage on the stage, the teacher's up there talking, they don't get it. But when you get like the best person in the world given a particular lesson, where all of a sudden they can also take you to that place, it feels different. It hits different for the students. So now they develop a different level of curiosity. And for the people who create properly, as this gentleman is saying, then now you can take people in a positive direction. So it really is how many of us are going to create the things that give kids the choice that they can choose to go in the opposite direction. But if we create the proper things, hopefully they'll make the choices to follow us in the right direction. And the last thing I'll just say is around how this is it's not just VR. It is going to connect with NFTs, blockchain, artificial intelligence. There are going to be AI bots inside of these places, but some of those may be utilized for teaching and developing students. So the good and the bad.
And Microsoft Teams is a perfect example of that. I mean, you may not know that Microsoft Office actually is keeping a score of your productivity, and that AI is running in the background. And for all we know, Zoom and like all of the other products, this isn't unique, but it is part of what this new economy is going on. And so, for better or for worse, we need to be aware of this, and we need to act accordingly in terms of how we do that. But it is a very real aspect of this, where this tech has worked our way into our lives, and people didn't see it coming, and now it's here. But the awareness that Silicon Harlem is spreading into the community about tech is helping give you the foresight to be able to make wise decisions that affect yourself and your family and your economics. And there is so much opportunity here. It's a matter of finding your place within it based on your passions and your skill sets that you can evolve into.
So we have a question from Claire, and then we're going to do a rapid response. I want everybody to introduce themselves, tell us what you do, and then we're going to wrap it up. You get to grab a bag of chips on the way out. So, Claire Young.
Hi, Ben. I think one thing that you said that was really powerful was you said it's an empathy machine.
So it reminds me, like I think a while ago when MIT Media Lab came up with an XR experience where you can feel like you're a tree, right? You actually can become the tree. So that's part of the.
That a couple of weeks ago.
Love that. Environmentalism message in that too. And then just like what Joey was saying earlier, what if people with disability can play sports in metaverse? And what if someone like me can actually experience the life as someone with disability in the metaverse? How would that impact the empathy we have for each other? And what it would mean, for law enforcement, where we could use some of that empathy to solve some of the tension there. So that's a lot of potential. Maybe we can even have a training center in metaverse or for correction officers and for police. So that's just some reaction there.
She works for Silicon Harlem, everybody. Okay? No, that's great point. Claire, did you want to comment on anything?
The human use cases are the most important use cases, and you highlighted civics before, and it doesn't come as a surprise that Korea is being on the vanguard of that. Korea has been in front of tech for a long time, but I personally have a passion for civics and the way that we relate to our society. So we talk about a lot of social issues here. Our ability to communicate that with each other, we've used social media as a platform to argue in a vacuum, but I could see the metaverse being something where people get together and they have in-person forums and they come to resolutions and they resolve questions. And this embodiment that we get in the metaverse applied in a civics context, for us to be able to do this here but virtually, is going to change the way that we think about the way that we run our government, and it's going to increase the frequency of participation, the level of participation, and the quality of participation that we as individuals can be part of our society and government.
Very good. So I'm going to just go around like a crazy man. Come on, Book.
Good evening. I'm Michelle Bishop. I'm the founder and executive director of Harlem Needle Arts. We preserve fiber, textile design, and needle arts in the African diaspora. And I am a proud member of the co-working space here at Silicon Harlem.
She's our neighborhood watch lady. She makes sure nobody comes in this joint.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Okay. Yep. Good evening. My name is Ed Foston. I'm co-founder, managing principal of Area Probe. We're a tech-enabled advisory firm that works with commercial real estate developers across the Northeast and various parts of the country. We leverage AI and machine learning with some of our prop tech tools, in addition to doing conventional real estate advisory work as well.
You didn't totally get that. You talked a lot about drums. Am I right? Kind of. A little bit. A little bit here and there.
I'm Robert Taylor. I'm the Executive Director of Youth Action Youth Build. We are a youth development and workforce training organization based out of East Harlem. And been doing some work with Silicon Harlem and getting our young people ready for some of these jobs.
Underestimated, but we'll let him get away with that. This guy's making a major commitment to get people in the workforce, particularly around technology. And he's been doing it for 1,000,000 years, so we're proud to be a part of what he's doing.
Hi, everyone. My name is Fatu. I'm a junior at City College, and I'm the new marketing intern for Silicon Harlem.
Hello.
So I'm excited.
We're stacking it up.
Hi, my name's Rodney Shannon. I am a program director at a few career and technical education programs over at Queensborough Community College.
I'm Daryl Challenger. I am a freelance software developer, and I'm always looking for work. And I love Web3. So, this is interesting stuff.
A lot of smart people here. I'm going to get to this section because you guys are the long-winded people. So let me see.
Good evening. I'm Peter Flood. I've known Clayton for a good 5-6 years now. Enjoy the relationship. Three quick things. I run a company that does content management, media asset management, metadata, and that's such. But two comments. Number one, I went to grammar school with Louis Risotto, so I was just curious. I mean, I'm just curious, where you saw him and what he was complaining about.
Grammar school with Lucas?
Yeah.
Lucas Risotto's like 28.
What's that?
Lucas Risotto's like 28. Might be a different one.
Oh, okay. It's probably his son. Anyway, the other thing, another comment. I'm sorry. I mean, the Louis Risotto, I know. He was a founder, but you mentioned he was a founder of Wired and.
No. This is a
different one. Okay, that's fine. So, the second thing is just in my world, in my work activity, you talking about the metaverse. To me, the metaverse is creeping in different ways, and one of them now that I get involved with to some extent is synthetic content, where there are companies now using AI, natural language programming to say, all you have to do is speak that you want a beach with the sunset and the sailboat, and you get a picture. I don't have a wholehearted belief in it, because I think even if it's successful, it gets commoditized and there's not a lot of money in it, but it creeps in. So anyway, thank you.
Very good. That's Peter Flood.
If
You have
an
more? Go ahead.
opportunity to get on that, that's going to be huge. No, it is. Procedurally generated content is going to be huge, and if you're in content management, managing 3D assets and being able to generate virtual worlds and content, there isn't enough of that yet. There isn't enough of a tool set yet. So building tools that do this, and especially dynamic tools. So if you can create your metaverse just by speaking, this, no question people are working on this, but whoever wins that game is probably going to be. I agree with that. I agree with that.
Hi, Ben. We actually have one more question.
Hi, I'm Sayuri Dubois, and I'm in 5th grade, and I take a robotics club. My question was, since the metaverse is so updated and new, and we can do basically anything any human life can do on the metaverse, isn't anybody concerned about spending too much time on the metaverse?
Well, these are decisions we all have to. Does it take before you get sick in VR? I think we all have to make responsible decisions about how we spend our time doing anything. But you can do things in the metaverse that you can't do in real life. And so to be able to fly like I did before, for example, I'll decide how much time is healthy to fly, and my wife also may say, hey, you've been in there too long, and ask me to take my headset off. It's all a matter of choice, but I think that the metaverse isn't so much creeping in, it's a matter of we're evolving towards it, and that more and more things are becoming spatially enabled. And for someone like you in 5th grade, like we've been talking a lot about makers tonight, like knowing you have the biggest opportunity of all, because all this is in front of you. Like, I'm well over 25 years older than you, but in 25 years, all this is going to be spoken for, and you will have say, hey, I remember they were talking about this way back when, but if you learn Blender and you learn Unity and you learn to make things in it, and make your mom's hat shop, and you'll all do really well.
So good evening.
Everybody may not be able to see her.
To my husband, Clayton Banks. So I'm happy to be here. I represent a Swiss company. I'm in human resources, and Ben, I have some ideas that we have to talk about after here.
All right. Let's get over here.
Good evening. My name is Damal Brathwaite. I am an IT technician at a major bank. Happy to be here. Thank you for having this Silicon Harlem Meetup today.
Hello, my name is Ralph Brannon. I'm an attorney by education, but I'm an investor by choice. And I'm looking for the opportunities, basically, how I can enhance my portfolio. I subscribe to a number of different publications, Inside Trader and Weiss cryptocurrencies. And, what's the other? I have a number of ones that I subscribe to, but this is basically would augment and supplement what I'm looking at. I hear a lot about digital transformation of all the healthcare records and so many different things that we are transforming into. So I just want to keep abreast. I have a granddaughter, which I'm trying to, like you say, generational gap, trying to make sure that when I'm not here, that she has some legacy, basically.
I can tell you, as not an investor, that Apple, Meta, NVIDIA, and Epic Games are all four of those haven't even begun. I mean,
but Claire, make sure you get this information right here. We might need your help. Oh, you got one. Okay, go ahead.
Again, I'm Jamal Thomas with Black on Black Education, and I run with my 23-year-old daughter. We're all about what it's going to take to transform education. I'm kind of a budding futurist. I study artificial intelligence, blockchain, cryptocurrency, robotics, artificial intelligence, like the whole works. And the reality is that the world's going to change more in the next 10 years than it has in the last 100. So, jump in, dig in, study this stuff, play with it. I'm excited about where we're going.
Yep. Jamal's been a tech guy for a minute. Real good. Yep.
Michael Elling. I've known Clayton now for over a decade and his partner Bruce for 3 decades. I hate to say that. I'm a student of networks. This year I'll be working on probably the biggest interactive digital experience on the planet in Times Square, called the Times Square Experience. And my other big project will be bridging the digital divide in the South Bronx. So Clayton knows about that. We're hoping to join forces with you. Sorry I missed the early part of your lecture. These things normally start like an hour in, but we'll catch up. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike.
Hi, Ken Granderson again. I'm blackfacts.com, internet's first and largest Black history encyclopedia. It's not really just encyclopedia, it's actually a content aggregation, classification, and syndication engine. Been a software developer for 30 years and a visionary. Put Roxbury online 20 plus years ago. This time around, looking to, be here at the ground floor and build some things so that we have a real big piece of the rock. So that's what I'm up.
Hi, my name's Hassan Mia. I'm the founder of PayBaby, P-A-Y-B-B-Y. We're a mobile-only digital bank that you can download in a few minutes with the mission of making banking accessible for all for free and getting rid of the $100 billion problem the banksters are taking. And then concurrently, we're believers in crypto economy and how that's the next form of currency. So we already launched actually the first NFT payment portal that you can use with only fiat or with cash and credit card. Others, you have to use crypto. But we're also launching a full crypto banking platform. So both will be living concurrently and integrated. So it's a combination of AI applications and crypto, blockchain, basically.
Beautiful. Young lady in the back, Rosa, introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Rosa Herrera. I'm a senior computer engineer at the City College of New York with a minor in economics, and I'm the new tech intern at Silicon Harlem.
Right on. We're stacking it. We're stacking.
My name is Barbara DaCosta. I'm the owner of BD Consulting Solutions, Inc., and I provide professional services and project management across all industries, including CUNY.
Nice.
So I'm here if you need to be served with professional services.
Amazing. The young girl next to you, does she want to say hello? Hello. All right. Did you want to?
I just wanted to comment.
Yeah.
Pretty good. We have such a vast reservoir of talent and expertise. Is there any way we can all connect up online by the website and share it online?
Yeah, for those who are interested, absolutely. We can create a shared folder and start to think and, share and all that kind
Yeah,
of
I mean,
good
that's
stuff.
the ultimate networking, right? I
It
mean,
is.
Not just
It
to
is.
have a meeting and everyone disperses.
Yeah.
With no
And you
connection.
got to make sure, I don't know how you heard about this, but we are very active with our, with our list of people that are connected to us. So we
Okay.
oftentimes are communicating through our newsletter and things of that nature. So there is ways to connect.
There's a dues? Do you have a dues paying situation?
No. It's free.
Well, how
Until
do
until they ask me the tough question, then I have to get paid.
So just go online, Harlem?
Yeah, go online, but Claire's going to get your information. She's going to give you my information.
Okay.
She'll give you all that. All right, I'm sorry, folks online. I know you have a lot to say, and I hope that we will get the chance to do that.
We love you folks online.
We love you folks online. Why don't we unmute everybody? Huh? He went first. Yeah. So we're going to open this up for you. Jolie, did you do that yet?
Yeah, you have to do it. You have to unmute everybody.
Oh, God. Oh, man. All right. Oh, how do I get all of them? Oh, God, I hope I don't have to do every one. All right, I'm going to allow everyone to talk, but please stay muted for a moment as I allow everyone in. Is this looking right at all? Let's see. Oh, raise your hand if you have something to say, is what I'm hearing over here, but how am I going to see if they raised their hand? Yep, raise your hand if you want to say something. I see it. I have staff to do this stuff, Anyone have anything to say? I think people are...
Bob Ponce.
Okay. Ted, I think we can hear you. Go ahead. No, let me see. Where is he? Where am I going? Somebody help me out. Ted Schulman.
Yeah.
Okay.
Could also go to gallery view. So
All right, Ted. How come I don't hear him? Here's another one. Is that Bob Ponce?
Bob Ponce has his hand raised.
Okay. We can't hear you guys. Is there a reason why we're not hearing them, Jolie? Oh.
Hello? Hello?
Now we got somebody. That's you, Ted.
Okay, and I could hear Bob. Oh, I'm glad somebody hears me.
I can hear you, Bob. All right, let's go one by one. Ted, then Bob, and then we're going to try to, wrap it up. Ted, you go first.
Great meetup. Clayton and I go back a ways. I'm an open source technologist and anthropologist. We've worked together on a couple of projects, and I'm now working on my concept of an open metaverse, and I just dropped the link, flowmeta.post. And this is the first time I've shown it to anyone. So, this is the premier audience. I'm looking for collaborators. I'm looking to see how we can develop an open source community and really involve uptown and open up uptown the way it needs to open to the metaverse and stop Facebook from monetizing our lives. We need to do this ourselves and own it ourselves.
Thank you, Ted. It's amazing, amazing work you're doing.
I got your LinkedIn request, Ted. Thank you.
Yeah. Bob?
Hey, great to be here with you guys virtually. I'm Bob Ponce. I am the founder of What's Next Academy. It's a next generation online learning platform, and I'm also a proud member of the Silicon Harlem Uptown space. Just want to say great meetup. There are great opportunities in front of us. We have to be sure to be involved in the metaverse to make sure it's a decentralized metaverse with opportunity for all of us. We all have to be committed at every age and stage to re-educate ourselves and unlearn some of the bad stuff and learn some of the new things. And I think if we do all this stuff collaboratively, we can create wealth, equity, and legacy for ourselves and our families. That's all I got to say.
By the way, did you find a keychain on your desk?
I did, thank you.
See, I leave little gifts for people. You know what I mean? So he's also a member here in our co-working space. If anybody needs a co-working space, we still have a few desks available. So that's available to anyone here and anyone online. Everybody online, I'm getting ready to cancel you, meaning we're going to leave. So thank you very much. It was great for you to stay on this long. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Have
everybody.
a great rest of the week and be in touch. I left my email in the chat, so I'll end this call in about a minute in case you want to get that down. But thank you very much. I appreciate all of the love. So let's do it again soon. 2/22/22 at 2 on Tuesday. Everybody got that? 2/22/22 at 2 on Tuesday. Thanks, guys. Take care.